Hello and welcome to the Let's Talk Azure podcast with your host Sam Foote.
And Armstrong.
If you're new here, we're a pair of Azure and Microsoft 365 focused IT security professionals. It's episode 27 of season 6. Alan and I had a discussion around the new releases in October. Here are a few things that we covered. Key Microsoft Entra, Intune and Defender XDR. This includes features, updates and announcements. And all the new Azure changes, features and also retirements. We've noticed that a large number of you aren't subscribed. If you do enjoy our podcast, please do consider subscribing. It would mean a lot to us for you to show your support to the show. It's a really great episode, so let's dive in. Hey Alan, how are you doing this week?
Hey Sam, not doing too bad. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm good. Anything exciting happening in your world over the last week? Anything new in the news?
No, nothing new per se. We've obviously got some stuff to talk about today, but for last month. But yeah, nothing in the news, the general news, I don't think. What about yourself?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's much new. I did get linked to a cool article today from, I think it was Datadog, that did showed abuse of admin consent with Copilot Studio, which I thought was cool. Showing how I don't know if you've noticed it, but there's this new, I say it's new, it's been there for a while now, Microsoft managed, admin consent process in Entra. And it sort of abuses that default permission that it allows users, because it still allows, users to consent to things like, file read and write and stuff like that. So yeah, that was pretty cool to see. It's essentially just, tricking the user into, consenting to to the app, and then, scraping a token and then using it. So yeah, I thought it was quite cool to see. So yeah, lock down your admin consent processes, everybody. PSA. But yeah, apart from that, I haven't really seen too much else, to be honest with you. It's been quite quiet, really. It seems to come in waves, I think. Anything exciting and new in the news?
Yeah, I mean, mostly I've just been prepping for going off to Ignite. So
yeah, nice. Yeah, I've seen there's quite a few good sessions. To be fair, I might actually spend some time, actually joining in, because I did see a thing about a session that is going to be, I think it is going to be remote, but it's not going to be recorded or something as well. So I thought that was interesting. So, but yeah, should be fun. Yeah, because it's only a couple of weeks out now, isn't it? When's that?
17th week commencing.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
So not next week, week after. So
yeah. Yeah, no, it's really good. Yeah, really good. Yeah, it should be lots of fun. I do see a lot of posts on LinkedIn of people going like, "Hey, I'm going to Ignite. Let me know if you're going." No, I'm not, but yeah, cool. So it does seem like there's a lot of people, in attendance, which is really good.
Yeah, should be fun.
Right, what do we got for this week? I think it's October news, isn't it?
Yep. Let's run through all the news stuff. I think there's been a few things to sort of talk about.
Yeah, do you want to kick us off first, then?
Yeah, sure. So if we talk about Defender XDR first, there's a couple in here, mainly around Defender for Experts for XDR and Defender for Experts for hunting. The main thing there is that it now shows trends in the amount of volume of investigations and resolutions or resolved incidents that they're doing in the last 6 months. So they're adding some more reporting in, and same thing similar to the hunting experts, some emerging threats. In effect, there's some reports on that now as well. So it's just adding some more things into that. Defender for Office, there wasn't anything this month. It was just last month when they did some stuff. October, so for Defender for Endpoint, there's just a couple in here that the isolation exclusions feature has now gone generally available. So being able to specify which apps or URLs, etc., are allowed to still communicate when you isolate a device, instead of using the default like Microsoft either block everything, or the Microsoft productivity tools like Outlook, things like that. So you could still let them run, but nothing out. You can't communicate with anything else. And then the other part in preview is the streamlined connectivity URLs, support for US government environment. So GCC, GCC High, and DoD, Department of Defense. So just adding those extra URLs in to streamline your onboarding and firewall rule requirements.
Nice.
Next is Defender for Identity. So this one was quite a big one in October that they announced the general availability of the new Unified Sense Agent version 3.1, which in effect is using the Defender for Endpoint agent on Windows to in effect do the identity part as well now. So instead of you needing to have to install the agent on Windows Server 2019 and above, you now can just click a button in the pool and it will onboard that server. So prereqs and that still need to be done, and you still need the version 2 agent at the moment for any certificate authorities, ADFS or Entra Connect at the moment. So if you haven't got those running on the domain controllers, which you probably shouldn't in a larger organization, you can run the new agent. So that's quite big. It makes onboarding quite quick, and also you're using potentially less resources because Defender is already running, so you can just collect some of the extra data there. So yeah. Moving on to Microsoft Sentinel. So this one, there's only one sort of thing that's come up. It's around exporting threat intelligence. So if you have a Sticks threat intelligence integration like Taxi and things like that are third party, I think previously you were unable to export the threat intelligent objects out of Sentinel because it's more around getting that data in. But now you're able to, in preview, able to export that data if needed. Moving on swiftly, we are now into Microsoft Purview. So there's a few things in data governance side of things. Unified Catalog is now generally available. Data queries, error record publishing to your cloud storage now GA. And in preview, a new table called Critical Data Column is added to the self-serve analytics. We've got a little bit in data life management, migrating retentions of Teams private messages from Teams private channel messages locations to Teams channel messages. So probably just merging those in together. We've got inside of risk. So in preview, Content Explorer now has the filtering and view of management tools in there. Sensitivity labels, we've got generally available for support for cross-cloud access to encrypted documents with Microsoft Entra configuration. So users who are part of an organization in another cloud environment can open up Word documents. That's the mixture between Azure Government and 21 ViaNet as well. And a new thing is in here that when new tenants or beginning from 1st of October 25, that automatically get new label schemas that previously were available to customers who migrated basically to parent sensitivity labels to groups. You in effect now are able to, it automatically sets that up for you as a sort of baseline. I think that is probably it for those. Let me just check. Yep. Right. Next is Microsoft Entra. So there's a plan for change. So updating the revoking of multi-factor authentication sessions. So currently in the portal, the wording in the portal against users revoke multi-factor authentication sessions button. They're now changing it to revoke sessions. I'm guessing this is potentially that there may have been some confusion in the portal that if you just wanted to revoke all sessions, that the revoke multi-factor authentication sessions probably deemed it as it wasn't going to do that. As you can imagine, if you didn't do MFA, you'd assume that you might not revoke the sessions. So I think that's just a wording side of it.
Yeah, it's interesting that that's been like that for. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Other ones we've got in here. There's some a public preview for app-based branding via branding theme in Entra External ID. So be able to brand based on the application itself. There. We've also got external ID as well. We've got a deprecation. So iteration 2 beta API for Microsoft Entra PIM will be retired, migrating to iteration 3, so version 3 of that. Emails did go out about that this week, I think it was actually. But that is starting on October 26th. So you've got a year or just under a year just to migrate any API calls to that. We've got a public preview for soft delete and restore of conditional access policies and name locations. I think that's quite cool because sometimes you do make a chop and change there and sometimes need to understand what was previously there, or, as you said, if someone goes in and accidentally deletes them, you can restore.
No way, Alan. That never happens.
Can't get in, delete. Seen that.
Yeah, definitely.
So in general, GA within the My Access part of the my account portal in Entra, suggested app access packages can be shown to users. So based on maybe their groups and things like that, they can see what potential packages they can add or request for themselves. So that could be access to a license or a service internally. Let's just take a look. I think that's probably it for now. There's quite a few. We've got public preview for global secure access internet profile support for iOS clients. So this is just core single sign-on into GSA is now supported. So that's all good. This one was quite interesting actually. There's a public preview for global secure access B2B support with AVD and Windows 365. So if you have users that are guests in your tenant and they're accessing AVD or Windows 365, they can use your global secure access to access on-prem services or have the restrictions put on them about their internet access.
That's going to be good for contractor situations, isn't it? Yeah, really good. Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, I haven't tested out AVD with a guest account yet on logging in and things like that.
Yeah, really good.
Plan for change, jailbreak/rooted detection in authentication app. So starting February 26th, they introduced the jailbreak/root detection for Microsoft Entra credentials in the Authenticator app. So if seen, it will in effect nuke the app. So that's a good one. It's almost like baking in the checks from the app protection policies.
Yeah, really good. Yeah.
Generally available, the ability to convert source authority of synced on-prem AD groups to cloud groups is now available. So you can start making Entra the source of truth for your AD. That's quite a big change from that side. I think that's probably it. There's a few others in there, but I think that's the key ones. And then finally, we've got Intune. So for the Intune suite, for the endpoint privilege management, there's now account context available to the rules. So this in effect allows you to do some filtering based on that as well. There's some new dashboarding around that, around user readiness on their devices. There's new Android enterprise settings. Block Wi-Fi Direct, being able to be used. Hide the organization's name on the devices when they're dedicated. And then there's some things around copy paste, allow USB storage, block location, microphone adjustments, mounting of external media, Wi-Fi settings change, things like that. So there's quite a few in there. You can now edit the managed Google Play organization name. So I didn't know that was a thing, to be fair. I think it just says, in fact, it's just the default for the tenant. So now you're able to change it to what you want it to be. So that's good there. And then what else is there? There's a new client for remote help for macOS. Just part of the auto update service that's on there. Yeah, I think that's probably it. So yeah, that's it for all of those tools. Bit of a whistle-stop tour, but there's, like you said, there's a few in some areas, but I think it's almost building for Ignite, I think, for these bits. So what have you got, Sam, for Azure?
Yeah, so I'll start with Defender for Cloud. A deprecation notice. So if you are using Microsoft Defender for containers, you do have to update your outbound filtering. There is a new fully qualified domain name that you need to approve: star.cloud.defender.microsoft.com. That needs to be updated before September 30th, 2026. Also, the GitHub application, the GitHub implementation, the permissions are being updated in Defender for Cloud. So it's going to now request a new permission, artifact_metadata:_write. So this ensures the new capability of artifact attestations. So it verifies builds as you go through from GitHub into DevOps, into Defender for Cloud, and into Azure. So you need to go into GitHub, select the Microsoft Security DevOps application, and approve the pending permissions request. You will get an automated email to organization owners to say, hey, please, update your permissions, but that could get missed. So public service announcement. There's also a preview, and the last thing for October is a GCP cloud logging ingestion. So it's now in preview, so it improves SIAM insights and permissions usage visibility across Defender for Cloud environments, which is interesting because we've had the deprecation of another I don't know how you say it. It's like SIEM but with a C. So I want to KIAM. I don't know what it is.
SIAM or something like that.
SIAM, whatever. So anyway, so if you are using GCP, look for that integration to make sure you're getting all of those RBAC logged events into Defender for Cloud. There are all the updates for Defender for Cloud. I'll move on to general Azure. There are quite a few of them, to be honest with you. So yeah, starting with Azure SQL, I work through them in sort of sequential order of when they were released. So we do jump around quite a bit, unfortunately. But so they've now added support for backup immutability with long-term retention for Azure SQL databases. So this is a write once, read many state. Making them non-modifiable and non-erasable for user-defined retention periods. This essentially stops, a threat actor deleting your retained backups. In the case of like say ransomware, threat actors will target your backup systems to make sure that you have no choice but to decrypt via their methods. So yeah, if you are using Azure SQL, look at that backup immutability strategy and make sure you've got it configured. Azure Traffic Manager, now generally available, has introduced a new health check infrastructure to basically check the resilience and scalability of the service. So what essentially this does is you need to configure new firewall rules with Azure Traffic Manager in your NSGs or in Azure Firewall in order to enable this new health check functionality. Apparently, it's improved, and it's going to make it a lot better for tracking your instance health of Azure Traffic Manager. So yeah, do check that out if you are using that system. General purpose V1 and legacy blob storage accounts are being retired. So if you are using general purpose V1 storage accounts, I mean, I can't remember when V2 came out, it was quite a while ago, and legacy blob storage accounts, they will be retired. After October 13th, 2026, all existing GPV1 accounts will be automatically migrated over to GPV2 accounts, which may result in higher billing costs. Your decision to not migrate to an existing GPV1 account will be construed as consent for Microsoft to migrate the account on your behalf. So, PSA. And it looks like legacy blob storage accounts are just being retired. It doesn't actually say what's going to happen to them, but I assume they're going to go away. Now in public preview, Azure NetApp Files adds support for Open LDAP, Free IPA, and Red Hat Directory Server LDP LDAP services. So there's a bunch of additional, essentially LDAP integration for Azure NetApp Files. We commonly see Azure NetApp Files being used as a lift and shift sort of hybrid connectivity for a lot of on-prem file servers and systems. So it's good to see that even more protocols are supported there. So yeah, if you have been waiting for that, check that out if you're using that system. Now generally available is cross-tenant customer managed keys for Azure NetApp's of files volume encryption. So if you are an organization that is using multiple Azure tenants, you can share customer managed keys for volume encryption now. Legacy retirement announcement. Legacy authentication in Azure Monitor Container Insights will be retired on September 30th, 2026. So legacy authentication has been replaced by the more secure managed identity authentication method. So you are going to gain additional protection there, just not using your legacy authentication. So make sure you're ready to migrate, because you're going to lose access to that. I think I spoke about this last time. Azure NetApp Files short-term clones is now generally available. This is where you can create a thin short-term clone of your data, so you can essentially create a snapshot and use it for a short period of time, whilst you up to 32 days, and you only consume capacity for the incremental changes that you make. That is now generally available. I think it was in public preview last time I spoke about it, which would have been a month ago. Now generally available, Azure Firewall IP group limits have increased to 600 per firewall policy. So, and a single Azure firewall policy now supports up to 600 IP groups per policy from the previous limit of 200. Good luck to you if you're managing that, and if you need it, there it is. Quite a big retirement, actually, this one. Azure Cache for Redis is retiring on September 30th, 2028. So if you don't know, Azure Cache for Redis is essentially a managed service of Redis that is hosted by Microsoft in Azure for you. So this is quite a big one. I've actually used this in production before as well. Really interesting to see that they're retiring that service. It's been there for a long time, so I wonder why. I assume it's just lack of usage. So yeah, Azure Managed Redis, if you're using it, you need to have moved away from it before September 30th, 2028. On that day, all instances will be shut down. Also, the enterprise version of Azure Cache for Redis is also retiring, but it is actually retiring sooner, weirdly, on March 30th, 2027. Or did I say 2026? But I thought I said 2028. So yeah, so you need to be off of Azure Cache for Redis Enterprise by March 31st, 2027. From April 1st, 2026, you won't even be able to create a new instance of it. So sorry, yeah, a little bit more detail. If you haven't migrated before that time, they'll be migrated to Azure Managed Redis automatically after April 1st, 2027. So then you'll get an extended, is it a year on top to then migrate off of it fully. Now in public preview is a vaulted backup solution for Azure Data Lake Storage. So you get offsite. So essentially, it delivers secure offsite backups. So in case of accidental, deletions, malicious activity, ransomware, it takes a complete copy of your data isolated from the source account. So it gives you offsite protection. So this allows you to, if the source account is compromised, restore to the original account or even alternative accounts as well. These isolated backups do protect against insider threats and ransomware. You can configure daily, weekly schedules or trigger on-demand backups. You can store backups for up to 10 years to meet any compliance and archival needs that you have. There are features such as soft delete, immutability, encryption, and multi-user authentication to safeguard vault data. So yeah, check that out if you need a completely segregated vaulted backup for Azure Data Lake Storage. Now generally available is custom port support for Azure Database for MySQL Flexible Server. So you can now configure a custom port, but it has to be between port 25,001 and 26,000. You can do that during server creation for both public and private access enabled servers. Obviously by default, MySQL servers operate on port 3306, but you can change that as you create it. You can only have one port per server. You can do it on server creation, restoring a server, a read replica creation, and high availability with a custom port as well. Custom ports can't be changed after they're created. Geo restore and geo replication aren't supported yet for custom ports. Now in public preview is Azure Integrated HSM. It's a hardware security module cache and crypto accelerator. So if you do rely heavily on cryptography and have performance-intensive workloads, Azure Integrated HSM gives you a way to performantly store those cryptographic keys for fast retrieval. This feature is available as part of the AMD D and E series V7 preview. It does support FIPS 140-3 level 3 security requirements. So yeah, go and check that out if you do require it. Initially, it will only have Windows support, but they are saying that Linux support will come soon, and apparently the feature will be offered at no additional cost. It doesn't say during the private or the public preview, so maybe that's just an add-on to those SKUs if you need it. Seems weird that they would give it away for free, but anyway. A retirement, a bit of a weird one. I don't even think I've even heard of this service before. Azure Custom Vision will be retired on September 25th, 2028. So this it allowed you to create, I think it was to do with processing videos and images, for like object detection, things like that. So, you can, they are saying that you should move over to Azure AI Foundry model catalog to, build a customized vision integration there. But that whole service is going if you do rely on it. Bit of a side quest public preview here is environmental sustainability features in Azure API management. So what this does is it allows organizations to minimize the carbon footprint of their API infrastructure by making API traffic and policy behavior carbon aware. So it allows you to shift and load balance API traffic to backend regions with lower carbon intensity. So you can essentially reroute to different regions based on carbon intensity, which is interesting. It gives you additional policies, and telemetry basically for this, for your APIs to become carbon aware. So if you do want to shift your workloads into more sustainable regions, and this could be something that you could look at. Now generally available is Azure Site Recovery support for Ultra disks. So you can now use Azure Site Recovery, as it says, with Ultra disk. This is now generally available. I think we talked about this previously at going into a preview. So Ultra disks for high performance production workloads. So a really good thing to see this supported. Now generally available is a spot placement score. So if you're not aware, Azure Spot instances are instances that use unused capacity in Azure regions. You're not guaranteed like the life cycle or the duration of a spot instance. So they're typically used for workloads that are highly fault tolerant, but they can be extremely cost effective. One of the challenges is to understand whether you're going to be successful in actually placing a spot instance, because you essentially make a request and then Azure goes yep or nope. So there is now this spot placement score. So it gives you a clear indication of how likely your spot deployment is to succeed. So this is going to be really useful if you can leverage this in an automated fashion as well to decide where you are going to try and spin up a new spot instance. If you can add that to your your instance lifecycle workflow. And just working out. Okay, now generally available, there's a locations API update for UK Azure regions. So what's going to happen is when you request the locations API and it lists UK South as an example, the current geography group is Europe. So the regional display name is brackets Europe UK South, and the geography group is Europe. That is now changing. The geography group is becoming UK, and then the regional display name is going to update to brackets UK South, which I thought was interesting. More UK data centers, maybe? Who knows?
I think they are.
Yeah?
Yeah. There's another one or two going in.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense if they're going to split it away from Europe. Okay, rather large retirement. Bear with me. The FS, FSv2, LSv2, G, GS, AV2, AMV2, and B series VMs are retiring in 2028. So these are all older, F series SKUs, original B series workloads. These are all getting retired in 2028.
Mm. Feels like a block of the data center, doesn't it? So I think they're all module, aren't they? It's just like, just take that block out. It's done.
It feels like there's a load of hardware that's going end of life that needs to go. So yeah. So you need to plan and move to newer variants of these machines before that time.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it, doesn't it? Especially with the storage account, the blob storage multi-purpose or the purpose V1.
Loads of it is going. One 3 year. Let me just November 15th. So you won't be able to. So if you want to order a 3-year reserved instance, you have to do it before November 15th, 2025. So in 10 days as we're recording. And then, so you can do a 3-year commit now if you want to lock in your machines for that time. But yeah, PSA, they're getting retired in 2028. Now in public previews, the private link service Direct Connect. So it allows you to make your applications available to your customers privately and securely. It requires you to configure a private link service and place applications behind a standard load balancer. Then the private link service Direct Connect expands the functionality and allows you to directly connect a private link service to any routable destination IP address. The feature is currently in limited public preview in West US, South Central US, North Central US, East US, Asia, Australia, Spain. No UK at the moment, but that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. No Europe either. Was that?
No, not that I could. Spain.
Well, okay, yeah. No main.
Are you saying North. That you? Yeah, Spain. Sorry for any Spanish listeners out there, but no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, no EU. The
big, the regional data centers.
EU North, or anything like that. Yeah. No, not that I could see. Another retirement. Microsoft is properly cleaning out the the understairs cupboard. Retirement. Confidential containers preview on AKS is closing down as your Kubernetes service. That is. So there was a public preview of confidential containers that's been in preview since 2023. So that they will be retired, which is very interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't got any transition information for you. There is there are details apparently on the confidential containers preview page about the retirement. That's being retired in March 2026, so not that far away if you are using them.
I guess the view is that they were preview, so there's not as much.
No, and you shouldn't have any production workloads. Shouldn't. Now generally available is pre-scaling in Azure Firewall. So it allows you admins to provision and reserve capacity units in advance, if for you to handle expected traffic loads, planned business events, seasonal peaks, that sort of thing. There is a new, so it allows you to pre-allocate that capacity. As we've spoken about, there's a new observability metric. You can view the current and historical capacity usage. So you can plan about, what you may or may not need. And you only pay for the provisioned capacity units, and you can flexibility adjust those, as you need. New planned data center region in Malaysia, Southeast Asia 3. So new expansion of data center capability that's currently under private preview, which is really good. Now in public preview is sharing capacity reservation groups. So you could currently deploy VMs in a capacity reservation group within the same subscription only. On-demand capacity reservation groups can now be shared with other subscriptions. So it allows you to reuse common configurations such as, and having central, like resource reuse, centralized capacity management, and allows you to scale out and also potentially separating security and capacity concerns as well across different subscriptions. Now generally available, cloud-to-cloud migration with Azure Storage Mover. So Azure Storage Mover's new AWS S3 to Azure Blob migration is now generally available. So if you are offboarding from AWS, you can migrate your blobs from S3 to Azure Blob storage easily. Good guy, Microsoft. So yeah, you don't need to create manual pipelines, use third-party tools, or anything like that. You can create jobs and transfer all of that data as you need. There's no on-premise agent that's required, and it can move that data really quickly because it's cloud to cloud. Not being proxied through like an agent or some software like in your office or anywhere else. Azure Storage Mover supports now also supports moving from NFS file shares to Azure file shares, which is NFS 4.1. That is now generally available. So if you do want to migrate your NFS shares, that is generally available now. Now generally available is Azure WAF, Web Application Firewall, capture challenge for Azure Front Door. So you can put up a capture challenge in specific scenarios to protect against automated attacks. So that's a really cool bit of technology that's been implemented there. Now in public preview is a signed request on Azure Front Door. So it allows you to enhance access control for content delivery. So just think if you had something like a media stream, file downloads or documents currently based on user authentication, geolocation, or time-based constraints. Configuration can be made through the Azure portal where users can set up keys, key groups, and enforce URL signing. So somebody needs a key in order to access that content. So yeah, that's a really cool protection mechanism for certain workloads for Azure Front Door. Now generally available is high-scale private endpoints. So you can now increase private endpoints VNet limits by upgrading to high-scale private endpoints. Previously, local VNets were limited to 1,000 private endpoints per virtual network. You would get an exception if you went over that. You will be able to now, if you enable that high-scale private endpoint functionality, you'll be able to deploy up to 5,000 private endpoints in a singular VNet. And I'm just trying to see if I've got pricing on that. No, I don't have pricing on that. But yeah, that's cool if you need to go past 1,000, I suppose. That's not a scenario I've ever had to deal with. And last but not least, a public preview. Azure Functions zero downtime deployments with rolling updates in Flex Consumption. So Azure Functions now supports rolling updates in the Flex Consumption plan, which gives you zero downtime deployments. So instead of forcibly restarting all instances during code or configuration updates, the platform replaces live instances by draining batches every few seconds and then automatically scaling out the latest versions to meet demand. So this is really cool. You have to update your ARM or Bicep template to the new site update strategy type to rolling update. For durable functions, you have the configure an orchestration match strategy for that as well. Yeah, so that's a really cool way to deploy. You don't want any downtime when you're deploying into any solution. So it's really good to see that supported on that flex consumption tier. And that's me done with Azure updates. Quite a few in that one.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of retirements as well. So of hardware.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think there's much else. I don't think there's much more around the minor, I'm going to say minor outage, but minor outage in Azure last week. I think we covered it on the last episode briefly, but yeah, I don't think there was much more on that. I guess some might be saying, when's GCP going down for a bit, but to join the crew.
Alan, they just don't want to join the club, do they? They're absolute professionals over there, right? So.
Cool. Okay, so did you enjoy this episode? If so, please do consider leaving us a review on Apple or Spotify. This really helps us reach out to meet more people like yourselves. If you do have any specific feedback or suggestions to our show notes, got that wrong. If you have specific feedback or suggestions, we have a link in our show notes to get in contact with us.
Yeah, and if you made it this far, thanks ever so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, thanks all.